Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive, and this one's about something we're all hearing a lot about these days, right?
Uh,
AI. It's like everywhere you turn, there's AI this, AI that.
it really is. It's kind of unavoidable these days. A real buzzword for sure.
Right. So we're going to try to get beyond the hype in this deep dive. We're going to actually dig into what AI is, how it's already showing up in our lives, and what it all might mean, for the future. What do you think when you saw this material, by the way?
Honestly, a little overwhelmed. It's such a huge topic, right? But there are some really fascinating threads in all of this, and I think what we really need to focus on is how significant AI already is. Like, it's not just some far-off thing anymore.
Totally. Okay, so maybe let's jump right into an example. Something I think a lot of us can relate to is, uh, have you noticed how good those recommendations have gotten online? Like, you watch one episode of a show and suddenly, boom, your whole watch list is full of similar stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I've gone down those rabbit holes just clicking from one suggestion to the next. It's kind of scary how well they seem to know our tastes.
It is kind of creepy, right? But, that's AI at
Yeah.
work, right? It's not magic, it's algorithms.
Exactly. Those recommendations are all based on algorithms that are analyzing huge amounts of data. You're watching history, what other people are watching, it's all feeding into that. And that, at its core, is what AI is really good at finding patterns in data and making predictions.
So when you put it that way, it's less like some futuristic technology and more like something that's already, woven into the fabric of our lives.
It really is. And it goes way beyond just entertainment. I mean, think about self-driving cars. The way they can navigate traffic, make decisions in real time based on all this sensory input. That's all AI too.
That's true. I mean, that's AI with life or death consequences right there.
Absolutely. And we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. There's so much talk now about how AI is being used in law, for example, to analyze legal documents way faster than any human ever could. And you can imagine what that might mean for things like, I don't know, legal research or even like a court cases, right?
Yeah, that's wild. It's really incredible to think about. And, speaking of big changes, I think it's time we address the elephant in the room, which is what everyone's wondering about AI.
Hmm.
What's it going to do to our jobs?
Oh, it's a big one, isn't it? That fear that like robots are going to come for our jobs. I totally get it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just sci-fi anymore. It feels real.
Yeah.
But how realistic is it, really? I mean, is everyone going to be out of a job because of AI?
Okay, so it's important to remember, like, this isn't new, right? Technology changing the way we work. I mean, think about the printing press or cars. Those were huge shifts, and some jobs went away, but new ones popped up too.
Oh, that's a good point. So you're saying it's more about a shift than like a complete wipeout.
Exactly, and the same thing's happening now with AI. Yeah, some jobs will be automated, but we're already seeing totally new fields emerge too.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Well, you've got your AI specialists, obviously, people who build and train those algorithms. But then there's data scientists, machine learning engineers. These are jobs that didn't exist a few years ago.
Okay, so those are like the super techie roles. But what about the rest of us who aren't, coding wizards? What happens to us in this AI future?
That's where it gets really interesting, actually, because there are some things that, at least for now, AI just isn't great at. And those are things that are uniquely human.
Like what?
Think about things like creativity or
Mhm.
empathy. Jobs that require really complex problem solving or deep understanding of like human emotions. That's where AI struggles.
So you're saying robots aren't going to be writing the next great novel anytime soon?
Yeah.
Or composing a symphony that makes us, actually feel something?
Probably not. They can generate words and music, sure, but there's a depth of experience and emotional resonance that AI just hasn't cracked yet.
I gotta say, that is reassuring. So it sounds like the more routine tasks, the things that can be broken down into steps, those are the ones that are most at risk.
Yeah, that's the general idea. But here's the thing. If AI takes over those more repetitive tasks, that frees us up to focus on the stuff that requires that human touch. It's like imagine a world where people can dedicate more time to their passions, to solving those big, messy problems that need creativity and collaboration.
I like the way you're thinking. So it's not just about, robots are coming for your job. It's more nuanced than that. It's about rethinking how we work, what we value.
Exactly. And, speaking of things to be excited about, the potential for AI to make our lives better is huge, too.
Oh, yeah. Our sources had some pretty amazing examples of what's already happening in, like, healthcare. That was fascinating.
Totally. I mean, AI is changing how we diagnose and treat diseases in ways we could only dream of before.
Right. Like, I read about AI that can actually detect cancer cells in medical images even better than human doctors can.
That's right. And it goes beyond just efficiency. It's about personalization. AI can look at your genetic makeup, your lifestyle, and come up with treatments that are tailor-made for you.
Whoa, so instead of like a one-size-fits-all approach to medicine, we're moving towards something way more precise.
Exactly. It's wild. And the potential impact is huge, right? Chronic diseases, rare disorders, even extending lifespan AI could play a role in all of that.
Okay, but if we're talking about something this powerful, we got to talk about the downsides too, right?
Oh, for sure. With any powerful technology, there are always going to be challenges, things we need to be careful about.
So what are some of the potential pitfalls we should be keeping an eye on? What are the things that worry you?
Well, one that comes up a lot is the idea of unintended consequences.
What do you mean by that? Like AI going rogue?
Not necessarily rogue, but like AI systems, they learn from data, right?
Hmm.
Massive amounts of data. And that data, well, it reflects our world, and our world has biases built into it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So even if AI is supposed to be objective, it could end up perpetuating existing biases just because of the data it's trained on.
That's exactly it. So we have to be really, really careful about what data we're using to train these systems and make sure that AI is developed responsibly, ethically. We can't just ignore those questions.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like we're giving AI all this power, so we better make sure we're using it for good. But how do we actually do that?
It's tough, for sure, but there are people working on it. Like, there are groups trying to create ethical guidelines for AI development, ways to make sure it's used responsibly.
So it's not just a tech problem to solve, it's bigger than that.
Way bigger. It's social, it's political, it's about all of us asking the tough questions. Like, when you see AI being used, don't just accept it blindly. Ask yourself, how's this working? What data is it using? Could there be unintended consequences here?
So it's like being a conscious consumer, but for AI.
Exactly. And if you're concerned about something, say something. Support organizations that are fighting for ethical AI. Talk to your friends and family about it.
We've got to make sure our voices are heard on this, right?
Yeah.
It can't just be up to the tech companies to decide how this all plays out.
Absolutely. And, that brings up another interesting point. How do we prepare ourselves and our kids for a world where AI is everywhere?
You mean like beyond just telling everyone to learn to code?
Right. Think about those skills we talked about. Creativity, critical thinking, empathy. Those are going to be even more important in the future because those are the things that set us apart from machines.
Right, like those are the things that make us human, and AI, for all its smarts, it can't quite replicate that, can it?
Not yet, anyway. Which
Right.
is why it's so important that we're, nurturing those skills in kids,
Got it.
teaching them to be creative, to think for themselves, to connect with each other.
So it's almost like we need to prepare for a future where humans and AI are working together, each playing to their strengths.
Exactly. And that future is closer than we think, honestly, which is, I think, both exciting and, yeah, a little bit daunting.
No kidding. This has been a wild ride, honestly. So much to think about. What would you say is like the biggest takeaway for you from all of this?
That's a good question. I think for me, it's that we're not just along for the ride, Like, we have a say in how AI develops, how it's used, but we have to be proactive. We have to stay informed, ask questions, and speak up if we see something that doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I like that. It's not about being afraid of AI, it's about shaping it.
Exactly. And making sure it's used for good, for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Well, on that note, I think we've done our deep dive for today. Hopefully everyone out there is feeling a little more informed, a little more empowered to navigate this whole AI thing.
And maybe even a little bit inspired. Who knows what amazing things are possible with this technology if we use it wisely.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay curious.